Hello, this is Tariq Agboola, a poet, and welcome to another edition of the Poems I Love. I'll be reading three poems, which were written by some of my favorite poets. But the first one is Ode to Gossips by Safia Elhillo, and the second, Hunger by Rasaq Malik Gbolahan, and the third, Good Bones by Maggie Smith. So yeah, I will just go straight into reading it before I give reasons why I love the poems. So, Ode to Gossips. I was murdered by lonely women, some of them wives, some of them with plumes of smoke for husbands, all lonely, smelling of onions and milk, all mothers, some of them to children, some to old names, phantom girls acting out a life, only half a life away. Instead, copper kitchenware, bangles pushed up the arm, fingernails rusted with henna, kneading raw meat with salt, with coriander, sweating upper lip in the stain, weak tea, hair on wound against the nape. My deities, each one sandal slapping against stone heel, sandal, wood and wood, bright chiffon spawn about each head, coffee in the dowry china, butter biscuits on a plated plate, crumbs suspended in eggshells demitas, and they, again, I heard, people are saying, I saw it with my own eyes. X's daughter, a scandal. She was wearing X and not wearing X. Can you imagine? A shame. A shame. So yes, that's the reading of Ode to Gossips. And okay, I'll first like to start by saying that my mother's birthday was earlier this month, and whenever I see this poem, I just relate it to her, not because it is she can resonate with it directly, but indirectly, in the sense that the poem talks about the relationship of loneliness with housewives or even wives, all sorts of wives, loneliness. But my mother is quite the opposite. So most times I just use it as gratitude, to have been for her to be my mother in such a way. So the thing is, the poem talks about loneliness as regards first the absence of your husbands, and talking about the community, because you can relate. Safia can be her roots can be traced to Africa. She's a Sudanese American poet, and I believe it can also be traced to the Yoruba community. Maybe you have housewives mainly, they would be kind of idle and wouldn't have things to do with it. So what they mainly do is house chores, and the poem also identifies this by saying that a life away. Instead, copper kitchenware, bangles pushed up the arm, fingernails rusted with henna. So all these things, and also talking about loneliness, the poem also uses one very strong metaphor, talking about all lonely, smelling of onions and milk. When someone eats onions, and let's say the person breathes in your face, you would eventually avoid such person. So normally the poem is not, the loneliness here does not regard it to avoidance, but mainly because that's just the reality. So like I said, the main reason I relate it to my mother is not because she's lonely. It's not because my dad did walked out of the door and never came back. Of course he did, he always does. So it's just because I just appreciate her hard work, and there's always, she's not a housewife, and she just moves out of that judgmental society that we have today. And I believe all women, or most women, should try to do that if possible. So that's just regarding Ode to Gossips. So I love the poem just because I could relate it to my mother, not directly. So the next poem, which is Hunger by Rasaq Malik. Hunger. In the vocabulary of water, there is a word hunger. There is a boat. There is an empty boat on water. Sometimes there is hunger and there is a boat full of immigrants. There is no safety in the dark body of water, in the way the sea carries the omen of tragedy. There is hunger in the cry of the sea, starvation in the way the sea quakes, the boats that strew it. Today, there are fishermen singing a dirge for lost lives. Their boats are empty, like their lives. They know what the sea wants, what it craves so much that makes it rage like wildfire. In the vocabulary of water, there is grief. There is grief with the weight of a boat and hunger. No one knows how to quell the hunger of the sea, how to bind the tongue of the sea, how to say, this is enough. Because tonight, the sea will stay awake while another boat of immigrants will begin to voyage. At the edge of the sea, the bodies of the drowned will litter it. Among them, a woman and a child. Among them, a man and his wife. There will be no one to sing a dirge for the dead. The door of the sea will be closed. Inside its room, the remains of our dead. In the diary of water, there will be no names enough to know every drowned body. In the vocabulary of water, there is a word called hunger, meaning the sea opening its wide mouth to drown our loved ones, meaning voyaging across the sea on days when the sea rages like wildfire, on nights, heavy with the cries of the drowning, of those aching to be rescued from the talons of the sea. So yes, Hunger by Rasaq Malik Gbolahan. I would also like to say that RMG is one of my favorite poets, mostly because of his diction and his themes. So yeah, there are several reasons I tag some poems my favorites, but this particular poem is not because I can relate to it in any way. It's just because I love it as a poem. And it follows, there was this article I was reading by Gregory Orr that talked about the temperaments of poetry, the four temperaments, talking about story, structure, imagination, and music. So, and this poem particularly embodies all, because I took my time to study this particular poem, and I wrote a review also about it. So, yes, Hunger talks about the search for green pastures, you know, from where you have a society that troubles you so much. I wouldn't want to name a country, but, you know, so this search for green pastures, you know, people would go to certain extents just to get this, just to leave that troubling society. So this is what Hunger talks about, and the speaker is one of, I'll not say the speaker is also, the speaker is also, yes, obviously, one that experiences these troubles. And I would also like to put it, to say this, that one of the reasons why I like this poem is because, first, the introduction, how it introduces each word, the flow. Now, saying in the vocabulary of water, there is a word, hunger, and then it goes and establishes a boat, then goes on to say there is hunger and there is a boat. Now, this particular introduction, it reminds me of what this particular tool in prose, this characterization. You know, most times you can introduce a character by stating the name of the character, or sometimes it will be along the storyline. So what he did was to just introduce these things along the storyline by bringing them one after the other. So he also said one thing, a particular statement line that I really, really loved, and it hit me, saying that their boats are empty like their lives. It just shows that, you know, from this society, even before death, their lives were empty, meaning that they found no purpose, or this particular, should I say speaker or speakers, you know, these persons, the immigrants, they found no purpose in their country of residence, and they have to, like, move away from that country to find a purpose in life, and that is what this poem is talking about. Yes, and there are several other things, talking about. Yes, I also like the imagery of this poem. The imagery is so sharp. Talking, it's introduces. There's a part where one lovely part where he symbolized rage using the rage of the sea like wildfire. It's they are opposite things, saying you are trying to show how angry water is, and then you are using the direct opposite of what water is, which is fire. The wild fire of what the rage is like a wildfire, the rage of the sea. So, like I said, the main reason I was analyzing this, the contents or the lines of this poem, is because I love it as a poem, not because I'm an immigrant. I don't know how they feel. I've not been there, but I love it as a poem. So that's for Hunger by Rasaq Malik, and to also say that it was a semi-finalist in the Pablo Neruda Prize for Poetry. So yes. So the third poem, which is Good Bones by Maggie Smith. Life is short. Do I keep this from my children? Life is short, and I've shortened mine in its ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep for my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate. Do I keep this from my children? For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. And for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you. Do I keep this from my children? I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? We could make this place beautiful. So yes, that's for Good Bones by Maggie Smith. The poem literally talks about the cruelty of life and the optimism that it could be better, or it is still. People say it is better, but it is good, but it can be better before it turns worse. So this poem, the speaker speaks from an angle of a parent. But however, how I resonate with this poem is not from a parent, but from friends, being a brother, being a friend. There's enough cruelty in this world, and I believe we should show enough kindness to people. They've seen enough cruelty. So, and I particularly want to talk about this line in the poem that says, for every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken. So, but as an optimist, I would say this particular line, I try to, most time whenever I read it, to think of it reversed. Instead of saying it in the negative, that for every loved child, a child broken, you could say, for every child broken, there is a loved child. So I think that gives more optimism for the for the world in general. So basically, to just cut everything short, just like life is. So I would just say that I love these three poems because one, it relates to me, that's to my mother, indirectly. Two, because I love it as a poem. One of them as a poem because as it is. And the third, of course, it's a beautiful poem that you can't do nothing but love. So yes, and that will be the end of my reading. And these are the poems I love. Again, I'm Tariq Agboola, and thank you.